among you, because we're going to be talking about some scary stuff today. What scares us? Let's think about that. When we feel the emotion of being afraid, what causes that? What leads to that? My younger brother, Tanner, went through the senior Sunday ceremony this morning with all of the other high school seniors. It feels like just yesterday I was standing where he is standing now. And I know that for him, it's exciting. It's also a little bit scary, because he is stepping off into the unknown. He is stepping into some circumstances, going to college, living away from home. He is stepping into a set of circumstances he's never experienced. He has no idea what to expect. He may have heard a few stories from me or from other people in college. He may know the school that he's going to. He may know the campus and even a couple of the professors. But he's stepping, for the most part, into the unknown. And that's a little bit scary. The scriptures that we're going to look at involve some pretty scary stuff. I want you to prepare for this. I want you to be ready for this. If you would, come with me to Mark in the 4th chapter. I hope that I'm not preaching this Mark stuff to death, but I love this book. It's one of my favorite books in the whole Bible. And I was going through it, and I was thinking, what would be a blessing for y'all to hear? As I'm preaching the last of my 3 engagements here, and hopefully I can get through it before you run me out of town, what would be beneficial? And I came up on these passages, and I thought, this is something good to leave you on, because this is something that I know that several of y'all at least are experiencing. And I also know that it's something that I experience, and am experiencing even right now. We'll talk about that. For now, come with me to Mark 4, starting in verse 35. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was, in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. And Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." The disciples, as several of you probably know, a good portion of them made their living prior to running across Jesus as fishermen. And we think, oh, that's nice. Go out on the lake, cast a rod, and catch a fish or two. This wasn't like that. If you've ever seen the television show Deadliest Catch, these rough and tough fishermen are out in the icy waters off Alaska. And if they fall into the water, if the waves swamp their boat, they will not survive. Even if they call the Coast Guard can't reach them in time from where they are. My father, who is actually with us after having some health issues earlier, and I thank God for that, he is better and is able to be with us this evening. When he was in college, he spent a summer commercial fishing in Alaska doing that same thing. He told me a story. It's all right if I tell this story? Okay, just checking. He told me a story of a time when and he was out in these icy waters fishing for halibut. And this storm came upon their boat. And the storm rocked their boat to the point that the boat, which is designed to be unsinkable, is designed to have a structure such that no wave can sink it, unless it's turned completely over. But if it can turn all the way to the side, it'll pop back up. Structurally, that's how they designed it. The boat was turning all the way over and popping back up. They had a smaller boat that was chained to the deck of their larger boat that they were on, that was chained to the deck. The waves were such that it swept this boat away. Carried it off, they lost it. And they told them, go down into your hold where you're sleeping and find your emergency kits and put on your vests. These vests, as soon as they get wet, they send out like a light so that you can see them in the ocean. But that's kind of a security thing, because you see, those will protect you for maybe 5 minutes, 10 if you're lucky. And then the water is so cold, it'll freeze you. So the light that is beaconing from these vests, it won't help you to save any lives if you're the Coast Guard, but it will help you to recover the bodies. That's what they're looking at. And he said one of his friends on the boat, who was a very devout atheist, was very opposed to religion, he was praying on this boat. I'm not sure he knew who he was praying to, but he knew, I better be praying here. I better be, applying for some help from something or someone. Scared to death. Close to death. The disciples were fishermen, several of them were. So when it says that they were afraid, and they were fishermen by trade, we know that this is not your average everyday high waves. There's something different about this storm. They are scared. They come to Jesus, they wake him up, and they say, we're about to die. Do you not care? Do you really not care about what's going on right now? He says, do you still not have any faith? And he calms the waves and the wind. They say, who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Scary stuff. Read on with me if you would. Picking back up where we left off, the first verse of 5. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained, hand and foot. He tore the chains and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day, among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus in the distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want from me? Jesus, Son of the Most High God! In God's name, don't torture me!" For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside. And the people went out to see what happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. They were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave that region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. We go from fear to fear. We go from fear of the natural to fear of the supernatural. They're walking down this path, and the disciples walking behind Jesus see this mangled, naked man running up to him, screaming. And Jesus says, "Come out of this man." They say, don't make us go. He said, what is your name? He said, "We are Legion, for we are many." This is scary stuff. It's terrifying. And Jesus, he talks with the legion, and then eventually casts the legion into a herd of pigs, and thereby diminished the Macon population of the region significantly. And then word spreads, and people come, and they see the man. And he is dressed and in his right mind, and they are afraid. Does that strike you? There's the crazy naked man breaking chains and crying out and cutting himself, living in tombs. And that's business as usual. But when they see him dressed and in his right mind, they're terrified. I'm convinced that what we fear is consistently, every single time, fear of the unknown. Whether you're a student and you're graduating high school and you're going off to college, and you don't know what that's going to be like. You have no idea. Just a few years ago, I was in the same boat that my brother is in now, and all the other seniors. I was getting ready to live away from home for the first time in my life. Had no idea what to expect, and I was afraid. At least some part of me was afraid of the unknown. When the disciples were in the boat, and the boat was being rocked back and forth and almost sunk, they feared the wind and the waves, but what they really feared was the unknown. And I imagine that the disciples were afraid when they saw this man possessed and running up towards Jesus, but the townspeople were afraid when they saw him clothed and in his right mind. Because to them, that was unknown. They had no idea what could have caused this, what power could have made this man well. We fear the unknown. Sometimes, as Christians, we will be called to walk into circumstances that are uncomfortable for us. And occasionally, we might even be called into something that we fear. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, probably the second greatest theologian of the 20th century, wrote some brilliant stuff, but you don't need to know about that. What you need to know is he was very prominent coming out of seminary, getting his doctorate, teaching. Dietrich Bonhoeffer lived in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer, as a German man, he saw the Nazi Party rising up and gearing into shape to do what Hitler wanted done. Extermination of the ethnic groups, of the political groups, of the religious groups, of the racial groups, of the fill in the blank that he did not agree with. And he saw the process that these Jews and other minorities and ethnicities were herded into separate areas of town, segregated from the rest of society. And he saw this process, and he spoke out against it throughout the 1930s. And he spent some time there in Germany. He also spent some time elsewhere. And he denounced the German government. And there was some friction there was tension. And he knew all along that speaking out against the Nazi Party could cost him his life. He reached a point in 1939, as World War II is already beginning to go on, or World War II, in England. You know, the bombs are being dropped and the U-boats are setting this blockade, and finally, he is terrified, and so he leaves, goes across the ocean to America, and he spent the better part of 2 years in America teaching at a school in New York City, Union Theological Seminary. And while he was there, I said earlier, Bonhoeffer is probably the second greatest theologian of the 20th century. The first greatest was a guy named Karl Barth. Again, you don't need to know a lot of what he did, just take my word for it. Barth, who was Swiss but had done a great deal of work with Bonhoeffer, and they knew each other, they were friends. Barth called him out, said, "You are saying all the right things. You're doing all the right things as far as your teachings and your words, but you're doing it from a safe place. You're over across the Atlantic where Hitler and the war machine can't touch you. So you should be among your people. You should not be fleeing away from the danger. You should be where the action is, because that's where you're needed." And Bonhoeffer was convicted by Barth's words. And so he took a boat back across the Atlantic to Germany. Caught the last boat before the United States stopped sending boats to Germany during the war. And he lived in Germany and continued his teachings, most of which were underground at this point. And I'd like to tell you that he lived on, and that there was never anything else bad that happened to him, and that he was blessed in this life for his faithfulness. That's not what happened. He was arrested for plotting against Hitler, actually becoming involved in a plot to assassinate Hitler. And he was hanged in a concentration camp just weeks before the end of World War II. Sometimes being faithful will call us into situations where we have fears. And not fear of, oh, look, there's a mouse. Legitimate, dangerous fears. And I would love to stand here in this pulpit and tell you that that's not going to happen. I would love to tell you that. That's not the truth. However, here is the truth. The truth is that when we walk into those situations where there is fear, if we are faithful to Jesus, if we are walking with Jesus, then we will walk with Jesus through those fears. It seems like there was something in the Old Testament about that. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I won't fear evil because you're with me. Something. So the song that we sang right before I got up here is perfect for this. And it's God, because I didn't request it. It's just perfect planning on his part, not on mine. Talks about feeling all alone and being in darkness. chorus of that song. It says, take my hand, let me stand where no one stands alone. It doesn't say, carry me out of the danger. Take me away from that which I fear. God, get me off of this boat. Lord, make this demon-possessed man go away. It doesn't say that. The message of Jesus is that when we are following him, he will walk with us through the fear. And maybe that means inconvenience. Or maybe, as it did with Dietrich Bonhoeffer, it will require your life in this life. But as we follow God, and as we seek to serve him, we have nothing that we need to fear. And it's so simple and it's so profound. God is with us. When we fear the unknown, whatever that unknown may be, whether it's unknown financial circumstances, or unknown medical circumstances, or you're going into a different place and you don't know anyone there, we have no need to fear, because even if we don't know what's going to happen, we know who is going to be there with us every step of the way. The song that we sung this morning says, I know who goes before me, and I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side, even through fear, even through darkness, whether it is a storm that may cost you your life, or a demon-possessed man attacking you, or, if you're in the place of those villagers, the upsetting of the status quo. Now the pork market's down, and the crazy guy is not running through the tombs anymore. He's sane again. And that for them was scary because it upset the status quo. It was unknown. What's going to happen now? But in all of this, Jesus will walk with us through the fear. I want you to think right now, what is it that you fear? Every one of us has something different. Every one of us has different circumstances. We come from different places. We have a different context that we live our lives in, where we may have something that we fear that's very public and it's going on. I experienced some fear a week and a half ago when I was unsure about my father and his situation. I experience a little bit of fear now because in less than a week, I'm going to be in an unknown place where I have no idea. I don't know the people at Lake Homa, and it seems to be a good church. It seems to be kind and loving people, and I think it will be. I have no reason to think anything otherwise. But it's unknown. And I'm a little bit nervous because I'm going to a place I've never been, to work with people that I don't know. But I know that God is going to walk with me through my fears. And on the other side of them, whatever that looks like, he'll be there. He is faithful to us. And whatever it is that you have been thinking about the last couple of minutes, whatever it is that you fear, Jesus is with you going through that. I want you to be blessed by this. This is my last sermon for you guys before I go off into situations unknown to me. I will leave you guys in the blessed hands of Chris and others. But whatever it is that's going on in your life that causes you fear, Jesus is with you in that. And Jesus is with me here, and when I go to Lake Homa, he will be with me there. So even though I don't know what's going to happen exactly, it could be the best experience of my life, and I hope that it will be. It could be something else. But regardless, Jesus will be with me. with you, and he walks with us through our fears. Part of that walk, if you have accepted Christ and been baptized, is taking the Lord's Supper. And they've prepared that for you in room 100 outside. If you need to take it, this would be a great time to do that. And if you need prayer, come find me or Chris or one of the godly men or women who's here. Pray with them. But Jesus is with you. And as I leave you with these words, I want you to be blessed by them. I don't want them to echo off the walls and fade away and mean nothing. I want you to be blessed. Jesus walks with us through our fear. Amen.
Shall we stand?